Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up. On a beautiful day like today, I was a little nervous that people wouldn't show up. Well, he's told you a lot about me already, but I have to go back a little bit about why I chose to go to Redding, California as my first journalism job. I remember standing there in the Greyhound bus station in Redding, California, saying, I got an offer to work here in Redding. My other offer, one of the two responses, was at the Los Angeles Times. I had an offer to be a business reporter. So I was thinking, business reporter at the Times, Redding. Los Angeles Times, Redding. And I picked Redding because it's a young person's job. At the time, I had to be my own camera person, editor, and reporter. So it required carrying a lot of heavy gear. At that time, the gear was pretty heavy. And it wasn't just a heavy video recorder. It was the fact that our television station was so cheap, they wouldn't buy little batteries for our recorder. They jerry-rigged a car battery to operate our recorder. So we had to drag a car battery and the recorder around, and so it required great strength. So I figured, well, I will do the young person's job first. I will be a television broadcaster. Then, when I'm toothless and wrinkled, I will go and be a print reporter. So that was my wild plan. So then I picked Redding, and I'm still at it, 35 plus years later. And I still have my teeth. Not so many wrinkles that I can't deal with it, so I think I'm going to stick with the broadcast. I'm so happy to see all of you here because if you are a student thinking about majoring in communication, or if you are a student majoring in communication, or if you're a parent or guardian whose son or daughter is thinking of communication, I want to assure you it's a terrific major. David has already touched on it, but it is the major of this century, and I firmly believe that. I got into an argument not many years ago with my own brother-in-law, my sister and brother-in-law. We're trying to help their daughter, my niece, decide on a major here at the UW. And my brother-in-law says, well, you have to major in something that'll pay. So be a business major. He's an Asian American guy, so you have to understand, Asian American guys are totally into business majors or engineering. And maybe if it's biology, it's because you're going to be a doctor. So either a doctor, engineer, or business major. That's what he had in mind. My sister, who was a communication major here at UW, said, what's wrong with a communication major? It was good for me, it was good for my sister. He would have nothing to do with it. And young people today come up to me and say, oh, I'd like to be a communication major, I'd like to do journalism, or I'd like to do PR, or I'd like to do marketing, but it doesn't pay. And I said, you shouldn't be worrying about what your pay will be. You really have to follow your passion because you're going to be working your entire life. And if you love what you're doing, you won't mind what you're paid. And you know what? The pay goes up. It doesn't stay where you start. And it becomes kind of a revelation that I could major in my passion, communication, I could get a job, and the money will come. I know it's kind of a leap of faith, but it does because you are passionate about what you do. If you hate what you do, it's not going to work, or it won't work as easily. I wanted to talk a little bit about how journalism has changed, for me anyway, in these last 30 years. When I started in Redding, we had to take our own film. In fact, it was silent 16 millimeter film. I didn't even know how to operate the film camera. On my first day, my news director said, here's your camera, here's how you load it. And he didn't even give me a light meter. He says, if it's a sunny day, you put it on f-stop 16. If it's a cloudy day, it's f8, here. So I had to go out, and we're a small station. I had to shoot 3 stories on each roll of film. It's like 100, what is it, 100 feet? 100. It's it's like 100-foot little spool of, and he said, we have to economize, we have to shoot 3 stories on each roll. So here I go out with no light meter, and I have to shoot 3 stories on a roll, but I got to shoot silent film, edit silent film. The only thing I didn't do was process it, thank goodness, because that would have been terrible. And then I already told you about the other video recorder with the car battery. That was our other piece of equipment. But it was a terrific learning experience because I had to shoot economically. I had to shoot with precision, wide shot, medium shot, close up, right? Cutaway. I even had to do my own stand-ups. I had to set up the camera, start it, run in front of it, and do my stand-up. And hope I wasn't, out of frame, or if it was shooting way too high. It was a terrific learning experience. And because it was silent film, I had to learn to be my own audio person too. I had to roll a tape recorder at the same time I was shooting so that I would have audio that kind of matched my video. So it was a terrific learning opportunity. My second market had photographers. Oh my goodness. I had a photographer who could shoot sound film for me. It was still film. And finally, we made the transition to videotape. The big 3/4 videotape. It was wonderful. I enjoyed that. And we started going into live shots, which was wonderful. We had little minivans that were set up with microwave antennas, and we were able to do live shots. What I experienced over the years was an acceleration. The technology was making it imperative that we work faster and more efficiently, but still be accurate and still be fair and still break news, do something or say something that was brand new to our audience. So fast forward, we have the internet, we have cell phones. I mean, when I first started, we didn't even have cell phones. We had to stop at the side of the road and use pay phones. I don't think I've ever seen a pay phone lately. And call in our stories on a pay phone. And, or use a 2-way radio. KSV 483 was our number. KSV 483, Unit 12. So fast forward, we have cell phones, we have the internet, we have social media, we have Twitter, and we have so much that has accelerated our day. We are producing more news per hour than we ever did. I am totally exhausted. And so I have to hand it to all of the young people who are breaking into the industry now. They are hitting it at full throttle. We had several years to build up to this level of journalism creation, but now the young people are totally into it. Instant news, instant video, instant communication. It's just been a terrific learning curve. Is it good or is it bad? It's good. It's all good because this world is accelerating. This world demands, I think, information that's solid immediately. So we have to provide that. And so it's been a real wild ride. So for all the young people who are totally absorbed in Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and all of these new technologies, keep at it because that is a major reason why you get hired these days. When I introduce students to my news director, she says, "Oh, are you on social media a lot?" And they think it's a trick question because they think if they say yes, she's going to think that they play around too much. But she's serious. She needs people who are very good at social media to help share news, get news, because we get news ideas and information from people on Snapchat and Twitter. And so she asks that, and she's serious. She needs people who are very good at social media. She needs people who are very good at using the internet to search, to research, to confirm. And she needs people who are thinking at this rate and on this level. So if you're totally into social media, good. Major in communication. I love communication because when I was Miss Teenage America, David mentioned that I got paid to talk to people, is what it comes down to. It's a terrific job, this journalism, because they send you to far off places, and you get to meet people, and you're always learning. And that is something that I value a lot. I always want to learn new things. And get paid for it, you bet. It's a wonderful thing. I like the fact that sometimes we're writing the first draft of history. When I cover things like the redress movement, okay, in World War II, Japanese Americans on the West Coast were locked up by their own government because they were suspicious, they could be enemies of the United States, when in fact they just happened to be Japanese American and they look like the enemy, so we're just going to lock you up. Anyway, here in the Seattle area in the early 80s, there was a movement called the redress movement, where Japanese Americans and their allies lobbied the Congress of the United States and says, look, that internment thing, that was unconstitutional. You owe us an apology, and you owe us redress, payments, cash, because in this society, mistakes are atoned for with cash. And so through this amazing group of people right here in Seattle, Washington, they were able to get Congress and Ronald Reagan to sign a redress bill. And so all of the people who were interned got an apology, and they got checks. $20,000. So here I am covering this as a daily story. It's kind of happening. They're having press conferences. There are Congress people talking. I go over there and I'm documenting it, thinking, oh my goodness, this is a first draft of history. This has never happened before. So I am kind of on the cutting edge, the beginning pages, the rough draft of what will be read about in the history books. And I think many of you now are reading about it in history books because it happened in the 80s. That was way back, way back. So I like the first draft of history. I like talking to people and getting paid for it. I love traveling, which you do get to do. And the idea of where you do your work is interesting. When I first started in the business, I wanted to be an NBC correspondent because I wanted to be able to say, Lori Matsukawa, NBC News, Tokyo, or Lori Matsukawa, NBC News, Cairo. So when the opportunity came, actually, to become a correspondent, NBC says, yes, we have a spot. You would be based out of LA, and you would cover the entire Western United States and the Pacific. I had to think about it really hard, and I ended up turning it down and staying at King because I had a son and a husband. They were leading wonderful lives. They were very happy where they were, and I wasn't really willing to pluck them out and have them live in Los Angeles with me. So I turned it down, and I really regretted it for a while until King 5 says, you know, we need to send somebody to Japan to cover Washington State trade in Japan. This was when they were first opening the Japanese market after many years to Washington State apples. So I said, great, I'll go. And over the years, I did end up saying, Lori Matsukawa, King 5 News, Tokyo. Lori Matsukawa, King 5 News, Beijing. Lori Matsukawa, King 5 News, Nicaragua. So it turned out like the main reason why I wanted to go work for the network, I was having it satisfied right here in Seattle. And so there are possibilities for where you do your work, and you get to choose. And you get to choose what fits your life and your priorities. So that was one thing, because many young people do ask, they say, oh, you know, how do you decide where to go and what to do? You have to do what is comfortable for you and your family. If you're married, by the time you have to make a decision like that, you know, talk it over with your partner and make sure that it's something you both can live with. Knowing that things can work out for the good later on. There are just so many things you don't know. I was just having this, you know, kind of a mind thing going on when I was preparing for this. I think the most important thing that journalists do is that we can help make change. We are the ones that help share information with people so they can make the right decisions for themselves. That's why we cover politics, so they can decide who do they want to vote for. That's why we cover school levies, so that they can decide, do I want to support this levy or not? That's why we cover the weather, what do I wear today? What do I wear tomorrow? We just try to give you all kinds of information to help you make a choice for your life. And so that's why we cover all kinds of news. Some people go, you call that news? But sometimes a Justin Timberlake concert in Seattle will mess up traffic, and yes, it is news. So don't yell at us for covering Justin Timberlake. I think what I'm most proud of as a journalist is that the stories we do make a difference. Sometimes the issues we bring up do become laws in the state of Washington. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about my colleagues. Linda Byron recently did a series of reports on untested rape kits. Okay, police here in our area have been for years telling these rape victims, okay, you go to the hospital, get this rape kit put together with samples and stuff like that, and then it'll help us catch the bad guys. Well, guess what? The police were just storing these rape kits on the shelves. They weren't finding out anyone's DNA, and so there were years, hundreds of rape kits in the King County prosecutor's office, and every county in the state of Washington had rape kits stored up in their storage rooms, never investigated, never tested, the DNA was never looked at. And so when Linda did a series of stories on these untested rape kits, the governor and the legislature sat up and said, that's insane. We could catch a lot of rapists if we would just look at these rape test kits. And so they passed a law this session that required counties to immediately test these rape kits. And so think about the impact that's going to have on our society. We're going to be able to catch rapists. Susanna Frame, she is just a real bulldog. She's a husky, yes. She did a series of reports on disabled adults who are cared for by family or others. And it was just a horrible situation that she discovered. Many of them were abusing or neglecting their disabled adult charge. And before an inspection by DSHS, they would get a warning. DSHS would call and say, hi, we're going to come inspect you next Thursday at 2 o'clock. So it allowed all these caregivers to kind of make it look like they were taking care of their adult charge when in fact they weren't. And so she was able to get the legislature, again, this session, to tighten up some of the laws for caring for disabled adults. Yes. And finally, we covered intensely Ricky's Law, which is a law for the last 2 sessions, which would provide families involuntary treatment for addicted members of their family or friends. Meaning, if your loved one is addicted by alcohol or drugs and is a danger to him or herself, you can involuntarily commit them to treatment so they don't hurt themselves, suicide, or others, murder. And so we covered this law intensely, and after 2 sessions, this session, Ricky's Law became a law, and now addicted people will be able to be committed by others to save their own lives. So, long story short, communication is a great major. It's the major of the century. I agree with David on that. It is something that requires perseverance, passion, curiosity, and it basically comes down to storytelling. If you are a storyteller deep in your heart, this is the major for you. You will find many opportunities. You don't have to be a journalist, but you do have to be a communicator. You do have to be a storyteller, because ultimately we're all in the business of making our world a better world. And how do we do that? We talk to each other. We communicate what the problems are. We communicate about what the solutions are, and we make progress together. So thank you for being here today. If you have any questions afterwards, I'll be here.